Hey guys, what's up? Randy Gage here. This is the start of a new medium, a new series. Maybe this will be on Netflix or Apple Plus or Hulu maybe. I'm calling it Chopping Up with ... And for the inaugural episode, I have none other than the lovely and talented Art Jonak, coming to you live and in color from Houston, Texas. Art has been in the profession for a couple of decades at least. He has been in the field. He has consulted with leaders. He has consulted with companies. He is currently running a company operation here in the United States. So like me, he's seen a lot of different, he's seen the profession from a lot of different perspectives. So he's got a 360 view of it. So this Chop It Up series is just, there's no script. It's not an interview. It's a conversation that you guys get to eavesdrop in on, where I'm picking brilliant people, having conversation with them about the state of leverage sales, direct selling, MLM, network marketing, party plan, whatever label you want to use. And this is the first one. So Arthur, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Randy. And yeah, I know how this works. You can't get any other guests, so you got to get one so that you can say, oh, look, we've had Art Jonak, so this is legit. You can get on here and you can start to upgrade the quality of the guest. That's cool. I'll be the first.
You're the guinea pig. It's actually, and by the way, I've done this on my YouTube channel. We used to call it Contrarian Cafe. And it's kind of reminiscent. One of the favorite shows models I like in the Tim Ferriss podcast is he does with Kevin Rose, and they call it The Random Show. And he's done like a million of them with Kevin. And they're just talking about what supplements they're taking, what exercise routines, best practices, talking about business, investing. So I'm kind of modeling it on that. I wanted to just to have live, unedited conversation about the state of the direct selling profession. And you and I are doing this all day, every day, except we're doing it on voice notes on Signal. Now we're just going to keep the same thing, only we're going to let these guys get in on the process.
Yeah. So in this virtual world, we'll do a high five to everybody. We'll do a fist bump to everybody. We'll do the elbow thing that we learned over the last 2 years to everybody. So as you're watching this virtually, we're going to shake hands. I'm glad that we can go all over the place. I checked speaking of, I think you left out in the description, MLM, crypto Ponzi schemes, like the things that were called also. And I checked my wallet today, my digital wallet, and there were no NFTs at all. Now, I didn't get hacked or anything like that because I never bought any.
Yeah, that's definitely a topic we're going to get into. But let me start with this.
But before you go there, just to be clear, I am not anti-NFT. Like, just to be clear, just in that hype phase, I was like, no, I gotta wait.
Too late. You've already been ratioed, probably. Somebody heard that, they hung up and they jumped over to Twitter to troll you.
It's coming.
Yeah. So for you guys who followed my work for a while know, in 2000, I wrote the MLM manifesto. MLM is dead. And I talked about how we had to leave the criminals and the Ponzi schemes and the dinosaurs in the past. I rewrote that again, I don't know, a few years back. I don't remember what year, just kind of where I felt these crypto scams were taken over. And again, I felt like the people who wanted to do the profession the right way were getting drowned out. Now today, so we're recording this in January 2023. I'm really bullish on the future of direct selling right now. I'm really excited about where I think it's going, and I'm wondering if you feel the same way.
Yeah, and it's January 30th because things change so quickly these days. That's almost February 1st. So just for the record, maybe something we say today completely changes next week. And that's exciting because to me, this is the most exciting period in history to be alive. I feel really fortunate to be alive in this moment in time. And that's the setup, meaning that we have access to more information, more case studies, more technology, and more people than we've ever had in the history of the world since the Earth's crust cooled, as Randy likes to say. So that should mean technically that we can take all of that and make what we do better. And therein lies the crux, right? It's like, who's going to be the person or persons or organizations or team or corporations or builders or operators? They're going to say, wow, look at all the new Lego blocks that we have at our disposal. These Lego blocks can change how we look at things. So sometimes it's not even about improving a system, it's rethinking it from the very beginning, right? From the ground up. And if you were to ask me that question a year ago, Randy, I would say, I don't know. I don't know, right? Like there is so much evidence of the tech space, for example, that was crushing it on a one level MLM plan, right? They had a one level. And we can dig into that a little bit deeper. So if you take, for example, OnlyFans, now we're going to get ratioed again because you're like, OnlyFans, that's a semi-porn site. Well, it's certainly a lot of the volume there comes from people showing their toes and their feet and their fingers and who knows what else people are into. But when you look at the dashboard, meaning the interface for their distributors, quote unquote, right? It's simple, it's elegant, it's easy to understand. You don't need a PDF to understand it. And that's kind of the standard that's being put out there. Some of you may be familiar with DoorDash, right? Randy, I know you get deliveries quite often. And in the DoorDash app, I'm bullish on DoorDash. I think they're a brilliant company. You have a three-sided marketplace. One is the company DoorDash. Number two are the restaurants or anything that's locally deliverable. It's not just restaurants for DoorDash, right? It's anything that's a local business, you can have it delivered. So if if your daughter's having a hard night sleeping and she needs cold medicine and you're a single parent and you feel like, oh man, I don't want to take her out in the cold, you can just DoorDash that vitamin C medicine to your door, right? And then they have an app for the delivery drivers, right? So it's three-sided. It's a three-sided marketplace. And guess what? They have an app for the restaurants and the local companies, but they also have one for the delivery drivers, right? They're separate apps. And when you fire up the delivery driver app, it's pretty freaking awesome. Like, again, you don't need a whole lot of training to start using it right away and to be empowered by it and to see, hey, if I do a delivery now, I get paid a little bit more because there are less drivers, kind of like Uber used to do. And as I was watching that develop, I thought, all right, where's the case study of that inside of our profession? Now, some of you might be saying, oh, my company's got this brilliant app. Great, I'm happy for you. But let me tell you what, your back office stinks. I can say that unequivocally. Compared to what? Compared to what your prospects are used to, right? Your prospect that's an Uber driver, a Lyft driver, when they're onboarded with you as a direct selling company, they're going to say, hey, what does the app look like? What does my dashboard look like? Where does it look like where I get paid? Where does it look like to all of this stuff? And we're going to show them this archaic system. And it's going to feel like it's the year 2000. So from that perspective, Randy, I was like, okay, this is very frustrating. And at the same time, what happens when we get it right? Because these are fixable things. These aren't impossible things to fix, right? These are fixable things.
Well, that's where we agree, because we both feel bullish at the profession in the moment, right? And I'm with you. The reason I'm bullish is not because I think we've done such great things in the space recently. it's because I see the potential to do great things in this
Yeah.
space. And the other factor that comes in, and we got to come back to and talk about tech again, more deeper. But the other thing is just the timing of the economy. It's frightening to me because in a few months, I will have been 44 years in this profession. And the things that the trajectory that I've seen over that 44 years is astonishing, right? But one of the things that I just have really seen to be true is that when the economy struggles, our business usually does better. When the economy's crushing it and everybody's happy and sassy and everything's frothy, our business often struggles. And I know you believe, and I believe both, that we are either already in a worldwide economy, a worldwide recession, or sinking into one. And that's one of the potential things that has me excited. Like in 2008, when I was saying, this is going to be the golden era of our business. We're going to look back at this in 2015 and 2018 and say, oh man, I wish. And, the rest of the world was ready to, they were despondent, and because the economy was terrible. But in our profession, a lot of people gave us a look that they wouldn't give us before. And I feel like right now, if you work at Disney World, Universal Studios, any theme park, any cruise line, any restaurant chain, any shopping mall, anything that just got slaughtered during the pandemic, where they just said, okay, I mean, literally the cruise industry said, okay, park all the cruise ships. There's no more cruises. The theme park said, close the theme parks. The shopping mall said, close the shopping mall. So every restaurant, every kiosk, every store in that mall, some manager was calling up 17 employees and saying, hey, the mall is closed. The store isn't open. You're suspended, or you're laid off, or, hey, we're just going out of business, right? So how many tens of millions of people were impacted, right? And they'll all listen to us right now. When your people talk to them now, they'll hear them in a way I don't think they heard in 2019.
Well, I think that's true, and I think there's going to be history rhymes, but it doesn't repeat, is the saying. So we look at 2000. That was the tech crash, the dot-com bubble. That was pretty rough. Like, that was rough. Now, I didn't have money in the market at that time, so I didn't experience it from that side, right? I was still kind of in the accumulation phase, hadn't kicked in for me. 2008, I experienced it from both sides, from having money in the market, and from building a business, and from seeing my friends getting laid off, right? So 2008, we got the housing. Similarities between the two. Right before those times, like 1998, 1999, 2006, 2007, if you decided to quit your job, you send out 5 resumes, you got a job, right? Then after 2000 and then 2008, you send out 20 resumes and people are like, no, I'm not interested, right? And it's this wake-up call that you go, if you graduated college after 2008, you've never experienced anything like it. So your reality is, it's always easy to get a job. It's always easy to ask for a pay raise. It's always easy to switch a job. It's easy to work from home and work for 3 different companies all at the same time, and they all pay me. Great. But you know what? That's changed right now. So this almost, Randy, feels like a white collar recession, meaning that a lot of the layoffs that we're seeing are happening inside the executive side, inside the managerial side of the businesses, inside the engineering side, what would be considered white collar work. So if you look at the layoffs by Amazon, what was so striking is that those layoffs were mostly not on the warehousing and delivery side. They were on actually the inside side, the white collar side.
And, I don't think correct me if you think I'm wrong, but I don't think we've ever seen that in modern history. When I think of what I've gone through, I grew up in Madison, Wisconsin. The blue collar thing was the GM plant in Jamesville. You went to GM, you got a job, you were supposed to be set for life. You worked the assembly line, right? The car thing. So who got laid off? The factory workers. It wasn't, there's a few in the corporate headquarters, but it wasn't uncommon for GM to say, hey, we're shutting down this number of plants for this timeline and 40,000 people are going to get furloughs. Airlines, it wasn't uncommon for them to say, we're going to furlough 15,000 employees. But those were flight attendants and mechanics. It wasn't in the C-suite. When manufacturing tanked in the US and everything went overseas, wasn't the C-suite, it was the factory workers. And now, just as you're saying, Twitter went from whatever, 8,000 employees to 1,500. Those were not mechanics and factory workers. These are engineers. These are PhDs. These are managers and directors and
college educated. Yep, it's the college educated.
The Amazon people you talked about. Have we ever seen that before, where it was such a C-suite or white collar recession?
Yeah, I think it's definitely more white collar than C-suite, because the C-suite, unless the stock is tanking and they just need to be replaced, the C-suite is going to be there, but it's the ones between the C-suite and what you would call the blue collar workers. So you look at Google, right? Google just prints money. Right? If there was one company in the world that prints money, literally is printing money, and the founder Sergey and Larry, they could just leave and the company continues. And if the CEO and the whole C-suite kind of dropped to the wayside, that company would still make money for the next 5 years, right? It's just one of those. It's a machine. And they laid off, a lot of people. And they're going to probably, if they're doing it right, have to lay off 150,000 people. That's what the board is asking for, right? 150,000 people at Google.
150,000.
Yeah, they'd have to reduce the headcount to.
You can't just jump over that number like that. That's such an astounding number for one company. That's never happened in the history of the world.
Not in the white collar side, right? So that would be the prudent 20% reduction in a recession, right? In an environment like this would be the smart thing for them to do. Are they going to do it? I don't know, but they've certainly started down that path. So has it happened before? I don't think so to this degree. So if you go to your favorite restaurant, you'll see, hey, we're hiring, right? So here, there's you and I talk about Buc-ee's. In Texas, there's a gas station called Buc-ee's. Buc-ee's is awesome. It's like seeing the Grand Canyon for the first time of gas stations. And I was at Buc-ee's, and there was a we're hiring sign. And the manager of the car wash manager, Randy, starting salary, $125,000. Right? And you look at that and you go, wow, that's 6 figures right there. Now, I'm not saying that's normal, but that's what you're seeing on the white collar side. On the blue collar side, right? Is we got to keep paying more and more to find people who want to work these jobs. So what does that mean for us in direct selling? I can say 2008, 2009 was some of my best years in this profession. If I talk to a friend of mine, Andy, you know Andy as well, breakout year for him. Breakout year for a lot of the faculty of our Mastermind event. It was a massive, massive plus that. And that's what you're getting at, is to say, hey, when things are down, customers continue to order unless it's a really deep down, right? If it's really deep down, then customers go, no, I got to buy rice and beans and I can't afford the vitamin. But the white collar worker is used to a certain income level. And here's, I think, the magic, and I'm going to talk about this at the Mastermind event. I call it the break the zero income, right? Where now they're very aware that the person that worked at Google and got fired or laid off with an email, and that's what happened. They got an email and they got laid off. And they were there 5, 10, 15 years. Having one source of income is too close to zero sources of income. And so now at one of the topics I'm doing on the second day at the Mastermind event is how do we present our profession in this era, right? That's the topic. And so now we've got individuals that go, I'm used to this lifestyle, this level of income, 6 figures, multiple 6 figures. I lost it from an email. I thought I had it for a long time. I was there 10, 15 years. Maybe I should develop a different another income. And here's the thing, we got to teach them that it's what you call leveraged income, right? That not only are you adding an income, but it's an income where you do the work right one time and they get paid again and again and again and again for a long time based on what you build if the customers continue to order, right? As long as they order, you keep getting paid. And as you're watching this globally, yes, we're talking about the US specifically, that's what we know, but the recession, mild or soft landing or hard landing, however it ends up, has woken people up just like COVID woke them up to their health, right? At the end of the COVID season, people said, you know what? If you're health conscious and you want to have a long life and you want to have a life where you're physically strong and not incapacitated or so forth, then you're going to realize nobody's going to come and save me on the health side. It's up to me. And that was the wake-up call, that there's a certain group of people, a certain cohort of people that said, I'm going to do what I need to do. And now there's going to be this cohort of people that are mostly white collar that are going to say, hey, I need to rethink what ladder my ladder is. Like, what wall is it against? Is that a wall that can disappear, or is it a wall that I'm in more control over? So last 2 years, maybe we were in farming mode, right? Hey, we're farming. We're putting out that we're in this business. We're putting out what our products are. We're putting it out on social. We're putting it out with our friends. And when they're interested, we get them in, right? Oh, become a customer, become a customer. And then we kind of switch to fishing mode. Hey, I need to go get some more partners, some more distributors, because customers are great, but I need to have people who also go get customers, right? So we went fishing. In my opinion, right now, it's hunting season. It's time to actively say, okay, the people who I know that are going to be in this white collar recession, who are now rethinking how they set up their life, and now they're maybe in their 30s, 40s, 50s. Now we have to proactively say, hey, Randy, I really want to chat with you, something serious. It's about something called break the zero income, or whatever the approach is that you're using. And lead with education, not pitching, just education. Let me show you what I found. Let me show you how things are changing. Let me show you why kids on Roblox are making $300, $500, $1,000, $2,000 a month by creating something in that video game, and they get paid again and again and again and again, even if they don't create anything in that game this month. And what I found is that that's what I needed in my life, and I started that journey, right? Those conversations need to start happening now, and we're doing them a favor, because they may not be aware of it. We are in the space, right? We're like, oh, I understand what residual income is. Great. But guess what? Most people still don't.
They don't, because I used to tell a story all the time, this GM factory. That's what my mom told me to do. She said, go to school, get your high school diploma, and then go to GM, and you're going to be set for life. Because that was really... I come from a very poor family. No one in my entire family, trace it back to the Mayflower. There was nobody in my family who had ever gone to college. So my mother was raising 3 kids as a single mom, knocking on doors, selling Avon. So she certainly wasn't envisioning that one of her children was going to be the first to go to college in our family. So she was advising my brother and me, hey, and then my younger sister, hey, get a job at, General Motors. Because back then you would get a job at 20 and you'd retire at 62 and you'd get a pension and a gold watch. And so that kind of changed. And then when I look at how it applies to direct selling, I used to say the sweet spot is 35 to 55 years old. Those are the people you want to sponsor, because you can't sponsor anybody who's 18 to 30 because they're too stupid. They believe still they're going to be a prime minister, a rock star, or a football player, and they're going to get $5 million a year. And you can't sponsor anybody who's 60, 58, whatever. They've given up on life. They're just waiting for their government retirement fund. You got to find them in this sweet spot, 35 to 55, because now they've got two minivans. It wasn't minivans then. It was a station wagon and, whatever. But they had a couple car payments. They had a mortgage. They figured out Real Madrid was not going to offer them a contract. They were never going to be prime minister of the UK or president of the United States. They weren't going to be an astronaut. They weren't going to be a rock star. They were working at, Arthur Anderson or the bank or the dry cleaner or the whatever. So you had this window of opportunity. Yeah. So you had this window of opportunity, like, hey, they're young enough to realize the path they're on isn't going to take them to where they want to go. And they're not too old that they've given up. So that was my mantra for 20 some years. And if I look at the whole trajectory of the 44 years, I say that's the biggest change I see is when I speak to 10,000 people in a convention now, 6,500 of them are under 30. And it's, back then it was cute when you had a college person in your team. You would shout it from the stage, like, I'm so proud. I've got a 20-year-old and they're, a couple and they're both in college and they're building this business. And you'd get and I have an 82-year-old man and he's so excited about the products and he's building, but it was all in the 35 to 55. Now you have these people, and these are the people that you said, they never knew a time when they had to worry about a job. They never, you know what I mean? And now they don't nobody comes into the work market today thinking, I'm going to work for this company for 40 years and retire. Everybody comes into the work market thinking, I'm going to have 11 jobs before I retire. And to me, what I'm telling my clients is how do you get your room, particularly I don't want to insult anybody, but let's say the legacy companies, the ones that have been around for 25, 35, 50 years. You speak to their conventions and I go to those conventions. There's companies I can go to their convention and I'm the youngest guy in the room, right? It's a little scary, right? And they're like, wow, this crazy kids on the Zoom thing. And this crazy kids with their Facebook thing. Wow, that's so exciting. Now, the millennial generations, X, Y, G, whatever you want, Z, whatever you want to call them, they don't want a job. They're not impressed with your Lambo, coconut visuals, stacks of money. They work one day a week or two at Starbucks. They sell some stuff on eBay or Alibaba or something. They've monetized their Instagram account to be an influencer or their YouTube videos. They don't want a Lambo. They want a membership with a solar powered scooter, that they can just, be good for the environment. We've got to embrace those people, and they're just not buying the stories that we used to be selling. It's a whole new world, right?
Well, the story's changed, right? That's the reality now. Before, in the beginning of this conversation here, this chat, you said, hey, are you bullish on direct selling? Bullish meaning that I am feeling good about where it can go, where we're going. And the answer is yes, I'm bullish. I'm not bearish, meaning that I think it's going to disappear next year. And when you look at the history of direct selling, we are in many ways the gold standard of this type of economy, right? Of this sharing economy.
Side gig. We were the gold standard of the side gig economy, right?
Yeah, and that side gig economy could become a full-time profession for you. Like that's the beauty of it, is that you really can make this a profession. So and I did a talk on this at the Mastermind. We'll probably put it in the academy, I guess. It was called the gold standard. That was 4 years ago. 5 years ago. And I had, I think, 30 different points or 25 different points of why we are the gold standard still today in many ways. There's some things that we need to tweak, we need to fix. But you were talking about your mom. You know, my mom and I grew up, she was a single mom, right? And she did the best she could, but it literally was make money, pay the rent at the end of the month, put aside money for food, and whatever's left, you know, savings account in case one of us gets hurt. Like that was the life. And one year, Randy, there's a band called ABBA, right? The Dancing Queen and so forth. I mean, just most of you know ABBA, even though they're a prior generation.
They're having a big revival right now.
They're huge. They've had many revivals because they made the movies came out where there was the you know, they used it as the dancing to the movies, and now they went on tour and they used the hologram of the four members, and so the holograms on the stage, and you're like, are people really going to show up in stadiums to see holograms singing ABBA songs? And they released 2 new ones, so it's going to be all songs written prior to 2000, and the stadiums are packed and people are having a blast because they're singing along and they're having community and all this stuff. So some of these bands are very fortunate to have been in an era where they just, you know, it goes on for a long time. But here's what she did. They came to Greece. I lived in Greece at the time. They came to do one of their, I think it was their final tour in Athens. And my mom's like, oh, ABBA. And she knew all the people, you know, both the girls and the boys by name. And she's like, oh, and she's, you know, just playing the music out loud on the tape deck that we had. And she, of course, couldn't afford to go, right? She couldn't afford to take the time off and so forth. And then she said this, Randy. She said, you know, at the end of the tour, they're going to go to the Greek islands for like 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks because they wrote the music and now they just get paid. And then she leaned in and she said, that's great for people like them. Ooh,
them.
To this day, I remember that. That's good for people like them. And just like you, I grew up, my mom, bless her heart, you know, I love her. She's my hero for what she, you know, allowed me to be born into freedom. My teachers in high school, my teachers in college, the people that I apprenticed with during the summers as an engineer, they all knew one thing, and that was, that's good for people like them, right? Somebody had to change that viewpoint. And this cohort of kids, as you might want to call them, right? 18 to 30-year-old, 16 to 30-year-old. A lot of the older generation looks down on them. Oh, they're lazy. Oh, they're this or they're that. Let me tell you what, I think they're the hungriest. I think they're the smartest. I think that they're the most socially, of course, connected. I think that they get it. They understand that the game has changed. And I think that they also want what we would call free time, which is a subset of money, right? Money is here, but the subset of money is free time. So here on my wall, you see these Chinese letters. And Randy, you know, I'm no fan of the Communist Party, right? So I'm going to make a distinction. I'm no fan of the Chinese Communist Party. I love China. I love China. You know, I love Chinese people. There's a distinction. But when I was in China, I was in Hong Kong, and I went across into Shenzhen, and I was looking for somebody to write a very specific word for me in Chinese characters so I could put it on my wall as a reminder. And this word is the word freedom. And I had a really hard time finding somebody to do that because they were a little bit nervous to do it, right? So it's a reminder. My mother came from Czechoslovakia when the communists came. She escaped. That's why I was born into freedom, right? Because she had the courage to escape so I could be born as an immigrant into freedom. And I think that the hunger level of the 18 to 30-year-olds is greater than before, as you said, because they have access to so much more knowledge. And they have access to so much more of what's possible. When they look at Instagram, they see what's possible. They see the lifestyle that they might want to go after. They see people their age who have created incredible companies, right? So now you're seeing all this evidence of what can be. And when you explain very clearly in everyday language that what direct selling does is very similar to what they're used to if they fire up Robinhood and they buy 100 shares of Apple or 10 shares, Apple sends them, Robinhood gives them every quarter a little bit of money, a dividend. So they did the work right one time, and they're getting paid every 90 days. Well, this cohort, the 18 to 30-year-olds, they know that, right? They're used to it. Now they also got used to losing 90%, now they're like, oh, I lost 90% of my money in crypto or 80% of my money in tech. So now they've also seen the downside. And that 35 to 55-year-old cohort has maybe lost 30, 40% of their portfolio. So now they're hungrier than ever to get that back. And let me tell you something. If you're watching this, you're saying, oh, you know what? My shares in tech are going to go back to those valuations. No. The last 3 years were the anomaly. Not now. Now's not the anomaly. The last 3 years were the anomaly. So you think it's going to go back really quickly to what it was, back then? No. So there's a lot of reality kicking in, Randy, I think, for people. What we have to offer helps solve that because it creates cash flow in a passive way if you do it right. And so we've got this cohort of 18 to 30-year-olds that are hungry. They understand. They want freedom, time freedom. They know it's a subset of money. And just like they're used to in the game Roblox to create a passive income, and they're used to in their Robinhood stocks to create a passive income, they're tasting it. And they're saying, hey, who else offers this, right? So there are companies out there that'll say, hey, be an ambassador for us, a brand ambassador. Great. Sell a product, we'll send you a gift card. Whoop-de-doo, right? They're saying, be a brand ambassador for us. If you bring us a customer, we'll give you 10 bucks. Whoop-de-doo. So freaking what, right? I'm not opening my contacts so you can pay me one time. No. And what does direct selling do? Direct selling says, hey, Randy, if you open up your contacts in your phone and you reach out to your cultivated contact as you're a micro influencer or whatever that may be, then when you create a customer, we're going to pay you every single time that customer orders forever. That's a lot different than the ambassador program, so to speak, that D2C, direct to sell, directed customer companies are offering out there. Now, that costs us on the margins, right? A direct selling company that says, I'm going to pay somebody not one time for referring a customer to us, but I'm going to pay them in perpetuity forever for that customer. That cuts into margins. So Netflix, Reed Hastings, hey, I've got a couple books by him. Every single month, Randy, they start with how many subscribers? Right? How many autoships does Netflix have? Millions and millions and millions and millions. So the corporation, Netflix, isn't starting from zero every month. They're starting with all this money every month. So they've broken the zero as a corporation. I've seen shows, you've seen shows, Randy, you sent me shows. Hey, Art, you should watch this. I sent you shows. They don't even send me a gift card, right? They don't even send me a $10 check because that would cut into their margins. But my belief is what I call community commerce. I believe direct selling is something that I call community commerce. It's basically saying, hey, if you, as an 18-year-old, as a 25-year-old, as a 40-year-old, open up your database to us, your contacts, your community, we want a long-term relationship with you, with long-term people for the, and we want to reward you long-term, even though that costs us on the margin. And I believe that's the future. And the companies that lean into that now are the ones that are going to win, because now you've become extra sticky, right? Now, all of a sudden, if you reward somebody for having 10 customers and they drop down to 9, then you're going to say, I'm going to go find that 10th one again, right? They're bringing it back in. And that community commerce with a break the zero check where they get paid again and again and again and again, as long as the customer continues to order. So it's not a permanent residual like an album. The customer still has to order. But as long as your customer group and then your partners, your distributors, customer group orders, the company continues to pay you. And it may be in the niche of education. It may be in the niche of specific nutritional supplement. It may be in the niche of skincare. But if you're going to recommend skincare, why recommend a company that doesn't pay you in a break to zero income, right? And that is just massive. And we've been that, and now we just got to be loud about it.
And here's how I think we have to be loud about it, is because the truth is, by the way, do you remember how long ago we did the $1 billion retreat? Remember what year that was?
Yeah, I don't, but it's been a while. Yeah, it's been a while.
Maybe 10 years?
Maybe 10 years, maybe 10 years or less, yes.
So Art has this idea. Art is the founder of the Mastermind event, the only, safe event, generic to bring your people to. And he's got the faculty. which I'm honored to have been the opening keynoter for every year for 15 years or however long he's been doing it. And he vets the faculty that they're actually in this business, they're doing the business with integrity, they can keep it generic, they're not going to steal people. So he came up with the idea, hey, let's all meet at Orrin Woodward's house. We're going to call it the $1 billion retreat, because between us, we produce billions of dollars, at least $1 billion in sales. So I'm there. Art sets it up. Chris Brady, Dana Collins, Sarah Robbins, Eugene Hong, Wes Linden, Donna Impson, right? The cavalcade of stars. And we just masterminded, just brainstorming. And so I put out this thought experiment to the group and said, if Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg or Jeff Bezos said, here's $20 million, I want you to build out an MLM company, how would you do it? And so that was our thought experiment. And it's like we were talking about mobile apps and the kind of mobile apps you would build out. And then we'd talk about the distributor training, and people would talk about making a list. And I say, well, but if Elon or Zuckerberg or one of these guys hired us or gave us this money and they had the engineers in the room, the engineers would say, well, why would you make a list? Your contacts are already in your phone. We can import them into, right? But if you're thinking the way you used to think, you repeat the stupid stuff. I've got a guy, I said, okay, I want you to, I'm working with a company. I tell the distributor, I want you to do a video on how to meet people for your team. Let me give you some. So he sends me the video and he's talking about waiting in line at the bank, that you use this time while you're waiting in line at the bank to, and I said, I won't say his name. I'm like, do you understand that 50% of the people who are going to watch this video have never been in a bank? They have literally never been in a physical bank. And to really add credence to this, I went in a bank 2 days ago because I opened up a new account with an international partner and I had to do it in person. They would not let us do it online. So I told the guy, I'm like, God, I used to remember coming here and you'd get paid on Friday and you'd bring your check and there would be 500 people in line waiting to deposit and cash their checks. I said, it's so strange. I'm thinking I haven't been in one of these in 10 or 15 years. He said, yeah, when I got hired, they sent me a thing and I applied and then they hired me. And they said, do you want to be a teller? They hired me as a teller. And then I said, what is a teller? And they said, what do you mean, what's a teller? He said, what is a teller? What do they do? And they said, well, they're the person at the counter who takes the money and the checks. And he had no idea because, of course, he grew up on Venmo or Cash App or Zelle or whatever. And I think, so going back to this retreat and how we approach things the old way, I think the problem is you and I are forever whining and crying to each other about how far behind direct selling companies are in the tech space. They're like 10 years, 15 years behind everything else. And that's like 100 years in the IT space, right? And like the example of doing the list and the things that, well, this is what Amway taught me in 1976, or this is what I learned in Herbalife in 1982, or this is what I did in Nu Skin in 94. Nobody's looking at it fresh. And so when we go to these later millennial generations, and we give them and show them our mobile app, they're the ones who are driving for DoorDash and Uber Eats and Lyft. And they're saying, you want me to use this crap? This is like This is like an email program that I can email somebody a video. I think what we have to, the message we have to get out to them is, yeah, you know what? The truth is the apps are pretty crappy. The back offices are pretty crappy. But the difference with Uber and Uber Eats and Lyft, if you don't pick up that guy in the airport and take him to the Delano Hotel, you don't get paid. But if you use my crappy app and you get someone who likes our protein shake and they're going to buy it every month, you're going to get paid. That's your walk away income. And until we can figure out how to get corporate people to invest more in, and for you corporate guys watching, you know who we're talking about, until we could get them to invest, to upgrade their tech, I think that's the messaging we got to go with, stuff like that, right?
Yeah, it's, and just to track back to the $1 billion retreat, because I know this will come up now, is no, you can't sign up for it. No, it's not a course. No, it's not. It was friends getting together, no cost. Oren and Laurie were completely gracious in opening up their home to say, hey, let's do it at our home. Everybody paid their own way. And my recommendation is create friendships like that, right? Create friendships where you mentor each other, you learn from each other, you challenge each other, you steel man each other's arguments. So I'm just going to put that over there to the side. In the analogy you shared, Randy, is like if Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos said, here's 20 million or $100 million, and here are the engineers. To me, the engineers would have been the more valuable part than the 100 million. Because if they gave me the vetted, proven engineers, I could build it, right? We could build it. And here's the opportunity for direct selling companies is because this is now a large white collar layoff moment in time. There is a lot of very good talent that's been laid off because they're just streamlining at those companies that may be looking for a place to make a difference. Because a lot of direct selling companies are in the business of making a difference, in the business of making people feel important because there are, right? So sometimes you're looking for something that you resonate with. So start looking, right, for these talented people. And this isn't to say that all direct selling companies are behind. No, there are some, there are many great C-suite direct selling company owners that are thinking this. They're having these conversations. They're saying, how do we implement this? How do we iterate on this? How do we make it better? They're seeing the evidence. They're trying to say, hey, I know we need to make our job easier for our distributors, for our partners. That's all there. And having said that, yes, that's the messaging. The messaging is, hey, maybe our app isn't as clean and fancy as a tech app, but what's behind it is maybe more meaningful, right? What's behind it can actually help accelerate your path to that freedom, that time freedom that you're looking for so that you can spend more time traveling. Or if you're in the 35 to 55-year-old cohort, faster accumulation so that you have more money to accumulate so you can retire off of. That's what's behind our engine, right? That's what's back here that's available to you. And over time, the tools will get better, right? That's fixable. What's not fixable is for a company that doesn't pay on every customer to the person that referred them to that company to all of a sudden say, hey, Reed Hastings at Netflix is all of a sudden going to start paying people for referring people to Netflix forever. That's not going to happen. You're not going to put that milk back in the cow, right? The shareholders would throw a fit. So we've got the foundational model is in place. The tools need to be iterated on, need to be made better. Sometimes the question isn't how do we improve the system, but instead, how can we reimagine it, right? With the new Lego pieces that we have. And then we can iterate on it. What I mean by iterate means like, I'm referring to what I call clock speed, right? How quickly can we optimize what we've put out? So if you're putting out an app, don't wait till it's perfect, put it out, right? Let the field play with it, give you the feedback, then go improve on it. And you're gonna have version 1, version 2, version 3, version 1.6, and you're gonna continue to iterate, ship again. And that's gonna give you the sustainable competitive edge as a company. And I know there are C-suite people that are thinking about this. One company has committed one company's committed $600 million to this. You know who I'm talking about, right? So let's see what they come up with.
Yeah. But I'm not confident in that company, honestly, that they're going to do it. And I don't think you are either.
I'm confident in watching what they're going to do.
Yeah, right. And I can tell you that I just worked on a 5-prong proposal with a company on how to recreate their marketing materials, their customer program, their technology, 5 areas of that I think are really critical importance. And they came back and said, okay, we want you to do these 4, but not the tech one, because we don't want to spend that money right now, because we think the important thing is we need more customers right now, which is true. They do need more customers right now. But what the message I don't think is getting out is that, okay, the way you get customers is you make it easy for them to shop on the phone. You make it easy. So, how many of you guys watching right now have vitamins? Listen very carefully. Hopefully the volume will be okay. Alexa, I want to buy a vitamin.
Based on your order history, I found vitamin D3, 5,000 IU, non-GMO, 360 mini soft gels. It's $18.95 with delivery by today. I added it to your Amazon cart for review. Would you like to buy it now?
Yes.
Your order for Sports Research Vitamin D3 soft gels was placed. It will be delivered to Miami Beach, 33141 by Thursday. 5 cents. If you change your mind, just ask me to cancel the order.
I'm going to not cancel that because I'm going to pay $18 of my immense wealth to demonstrate to you guys that vitamin is going to be delivered today. Yeah. So you think because you're got your amazing vitamin, that's who you're competing with. And these, companies that aren't willing to invest in IT, the Arbonne people think they're competing with Rodan and Fields, and the Shackley people think they're competing with Synergy and this company, but that's not the competitor. The competitor is Amazon.com and all of these, the auction sites and you know what I mean? And it's like, even like the video, when because he didn't just say wait in line at the bank. He said, now that I remember it, he said the bank or the post office. And I'm like, it's the same thing. Nobody goes to a post office anymore. They don't even, if you told someone an envelope, stamps, they'll be like, they look at you like you're talking Swahili. I'm editing a new video, a recruiting video for a company in Europe right now. Yesterday morning, I spent 5 hours going through edits, and I say to the producer, you sent me B-roll footage at, I think it was 32 places in this video that showed people wearing suits and ties. And I'm saying, if the distributors for my client use that video, it's going to drive away all their candidates because people don't wear suits and ties anymore. And if you make it look, it's just a subliminal thing. Just like the post office and the banking, it's a subliminal thing. The average candidate doesn't think, I shouldn't join this company. He's talking about a post office. They're saying, they just don't relate to it. They're waiting in line at the bank. It just went over their head because they don't have a frame of reference. If you show them a video with all these people with blue suit and white shirt and red striped tie, and there's a place for that in our business, right? But 32 times in a video, it's like, I'm like, you're killing me, guys. Because this isn't how the business isn't done. This isn't the avatar that we're speaking to. And so you guys watching, I'm challenging you to look at your PowerPoint slides. Look at your talking points. All you guys who are in the legacy companies, the Manitechs and the USANAs and the Amways and the New Skin and the Nature Sunshine and the Synergy and the Sunrider and, all those companies have been around for. Are you just repeating the way things were done for the last 40 years, 30 years, 25 years? Or have you looked fresh? Like, how does our opportunities presentations look? What does our PowerPoint deck or our flip chart look like? What does our packaging look like? What are the terms we're using? What kind of technology do we have? Do we think we're a tech savvy company because we have a company Facebook page? This is the thinking I think people got to change in our space.
Yeah, and just to be clear, most people watching now, I'm going to assume, are not in charge of those decisions, right? That's a C-suite decision that needs to be made. Here's what I can tell you.
But they are in charge of that conversation with the candidates.
Absolutely. And putting the pressure up. And then when you're having conversations saying, hey, this is what we would like. Here's what we'd like to see. This was pretty clever in this app. Give that feedback to the company. And the savvy companies, which are a lot of savvy companies in direct sales, maybe they're legacy, maybe they're new. Some of them have attracted the 18, 35-year-olds, and it's, that's the crowd. There's a lot of smart people in direct sales. The great news is the logistics can be improved. The tech can be improved. These are all improvable things, fixable things. The foundation of what direct selling is, which is community-based commerce, where you get paid over and over and over and over again for doing the thing right one time, which is creating a customer or finding a partner, they create a customer, and you're overriding that customer volume. That's hard for the outside companies that have the tech side done to copy. So what you want is a team that's bigger than smaller when these things start to get fixed, right? Or improved upon. Some of you already have, you're down the path already. You're seeing some really cool stuff coming out from the company, and that's awesome. But because the moment that becomes digitized, 0 to 1, right? It becomes zeros and ones. It goes from being in the physical world to the digital world. Then it can be improved upon pretty quickly, right? Continually. These are easier things to improve upon. That's why software as a service companies do really well, because they're not in the physical world, they're in the digital world. So improving on it is faster. And so, I'll show you an example. I've got this machine. I don't know if you can see it here. You see this thing here? It's called a tonal. So this is a workout machine. All I need to do is touch it. And all of a sudden it says, be your strongest, tonal, right? And it's loading up. I can pick my name. I got my kids on here as well. Now it says Art, pops up. And this is like an infomercial now, right? I'm doing this infomercial. And now it says, hey, get ready for your workout. What would you like to work out on? And here I've got this, I'm at 2,940,136 pounds that I've lifted so far. So here's the question. What are the odds that I'm not going to lift the extra pounds needed to get to that $3 million or 3 million pound badge? Unless I drop dead after this call, I'm going to do that workout and I'm going to go get that badge, right? It's very straightforward. Now, why do I have this thing on my wall? Now, where am I going with this? No, I'm not trying to sell you a tonal, even though I think it's maybe the best piece of workout equipment for your home, right? Last Christmas, my daughter, Pia, sitting on my lap, Randy, and as we're celebrating Christmas, she takes her hand, she puts it on my stomach, and there's Jiggle. And she says, Daddy, I wish you were flat, not fat.
Oh, good.
Brutal, right? Brutal words. Brutal.
Savage.
3 words. Savage. Some of the best copywriting. I'm like, Gage would be proud of that as a veteran copywriter. I couldn't get it out of my head. I turned to her. I said, honey, you're right. Give me 12 months, right? Give me 12 months. Because I knew I couldn't do it right away because I'm a believer in the slide edge philosophy. So my mantra before this was, in order to work out weightlifting, right? Not going for a walk, but actually gaining muscle, which is really important at this, at our age. I had to make a mantra to say, what's the easiest thing? The easiest thing for me is to get my foot into the gym, right? It's not what's my workout. If I got my foot in the gym, I was going to do the workout. Pretty simple. So what was the equivalent in tech? I'm going to put this in my office right there. I got to see it. And the moment I tap on it, that's like putting my foot in the gym. I'm going to work out, right? So you're minimizing the friction of doing the thing that needs to be done, right? And that's another place where direct selling companies are going to continue to get better at. They're going to minimize the friction of helping you go and prospect. They're going to minimize the friction of how to talk to somebody. They're going to minimize the friction of how to onboard a customer. They're going to minimize the friction of those activities necessary. Now, one of the things about taking this physical weightlifting thing and digitizing it, because it's basically electronic weight, is that they can send updates anytime they want, just like a Tesla does, just like an Apple iPhone does. So that's called the clock speed. And literally every 10 days, I hit the button and it says, hey, we updated. Here's what's new. Now you can put your iPhone to the side and we'll tell you if your posture is good or not. I was like, what? How cool is that, right? How interesting is that? Oh, by the way, you can now see how you're doing compared to all the 69,000 other people that are using Tonal this month. Oh, look, I'm ranking up. I'm number 695 out of 69,000 people. I'm feeling pretty good because there's all these 20-year-olds and 30-year-olds that I'm beating. And then I scroll up and there's a 70-year-old guy that's beating me. And I'm like, man, I just want to give him a high five. So I drop a note to the engineers at Tonal because we're buddies now. And I said, hey, this would be a good idea. They said that would be a good idea. Guess what? 2 weeks later, I'm able to, do that. I'm able to now, follow them and be much more engaged with them because it's all zeros and ones. So yes, Randy and I are being a little bit hard on this topic of direct selling, but it's fixable, right? It's improvable. You can get better. So don't sit here and go, hey, I joined this call and Randy and Art were like, man, the tech is so bad in direct selling companies, maybe this isn't the path. It's the opposite. It's the foundation is there. And now we need to just digitize a lot of it, put the clock speed on it, put some badges on there, create a fun dashboard for the partners to use where they can compete with each other. Every time I get a badge on the Tonal, it says, would you like to share this? Right click, just save as to your phone and I can send it to my social media, share it with others. I've probably sold 50 of these units just because I can just, here, look at this. Here's how it works, right? I probably sold 20 just on this here alone. So that's an example of shipping. And if you're on the corporate side, here's what I would suggest. I saw a friend of mine, Mateo, acquaintance only that we've chatted, and he runs a company called 8 Sleep. Randy, you've got one of their beds, right? It's an amazing a cover for your mattress that cools down as your body heats up during the night and you can sleep better. And one of the things that he did, he said publicly, every week we're going to ship a significant update to the tech side of this mattress. And then he posts it every week in a thread on Twitter and he puts it in the app. So the app says, this week's updates are this. Well, what did that do? It created this amazing positive internal pressure for his engineers to ship something every week, something significant. And it made those customers go, wow, product's just going to continue to get better every week. And the people are thinking about buying the product when they start reading through all the updates over the last 3, 4, 10, 15, 20, 30 weeks, they're going to be like, wow, look at all this cool stuff that the product does. Now, in direct selling, imagine a company decides to do that. Every week, we're going to post what we're shipping on the tech side. Now they have 20,000, 50,000, 100,000 distributors that are all going to get excited about that update and share it with people. So there's this magnifying effect that happens in direct selling that Tonal doesn't really have, that 8 Sleep doesn't really have. So when these pieces start coming together on top of the gold standard that we have, that's when I get really bullish on direct selling, because we have this magnifying effect of a community of people that are missionaries, right? They join maybe to be mercenaries, and some still are. And mercenary, I don't mean like fighting a battle, like money. I just need the money, the money, the money. And the money is really important. Like that's what gets you this, right? But you get so passionate about the product, you get so passionate about the culture of the company, you get so passionate about the mission, you become a missionary. And now you're out there more than just a financial tie. And, show me outside of politicians that's really hitting their stride, outside of ABBA, outside of the UFC or a stand-up comedian or a big church. There aren't a lot of places that can fill up a stadium with people. But direct selling is one of those places, right? Why? Because we create missionaries. We create amazing people that love on people, that believe in people, that say, hey, I believe in you to do and change your life better. And so it's time to go hunting, right? Let's go hunting. Let's go show people what's possible. And then on top of that, the companies are going to continue to iterate and continue to get better, where maybe they dropped the ball a little bit over the last 5-10 years, but certainly we can catch up.
Speaking of hunting, share your latest thinking on how you think social media plays in the equation for, not for companies, but individual distributors?
Well, as we go into that topic, because that's a fun topic, I'll just say, if you're on the corporate side watching this, understand, I was reading a guy named John Collison. And if you don't know that name, then that's already the first problem, right? John and Patrick Collison started a company called Stripe. And he said this on Twitter. He said, the world is a museum of passion projects. And what he was talking about is that everything, if I'm holding this Mont Blanc pen, or I'm holding these AirPods, or I'm holding whatever it is, somebody had to go create that. It came out of somebody's mind. And creating it wasn't easy. No matter how simple it looks, it wasn't easy to do, right? This statue that reminds me to be smart of the owl, it wasn't easy to do. Somebody had to go make it, create it, put it in a production line. It's always harder than you think. The IT side of your business needs somebody that doesn't fake enthusiasm, but actually has obsession over taking that role over. And I think if that happens, it's going to be amazing. And I think that's happening inside of some companies. Social media. Let me just take you down a brief journey, right? Just to give the perspective. I worked something called the graveyard shift, Randy, which is midnight to 8 a.m. at the University of Virginia in the engineering computing department. So I worked for the US Air, I delivered pizzas, and I worked the graveyard shift 2 days a week. And I chose Friday and Saturday usually because it would keep me out of trouble, right? So I get there at midnight. You did a lot of the backups that happened on reel to reel, right? There were these big reels that would back up the stuff that the professors were working on. And around 2:30 or 3 o'clock in the morning till about 6, there was not much to do, right? And there was something called the internet that popped up. And this was before we had web browsers. This was before Mark Andreessen came out with Safari. This was just bulletin boards. And back then, there were two groups of people that had emails, military and universities. So I had like an Art Jonak at virginia.edu email address, which is like pretty cool. And I started, there were these bulletin boards where you could be like alt.pottery, right? Or alt.meditation. So you have like meditation group. And there was one called alt.business. And I'm like, oh, this is cool. Like that was the only insight I had into what business looked like, outside of an MBA. And so a guy named Gary Fritz and I started an alt.business multi-level news group. It was the first MLM internet-based anything on the whole World Wide Web. And if you go to the archive Wayback Machine, you can still read through some of those posts to see how naive we were at the time, right? But here's what's neat. Out of that, I've got a friend of mine named Astrid. That was 30 years ago. And I still friends with her, right? Saw her down in Prague. So 30 years later, a connection that I made of somebody that lives in the Netherlands on a bulletin board became a connection. There are people that I'm still connected with from that bulletin board chat. That's what networking looks like. So that was the early internet. Now, there was a book called The Way of Building Your Downline by a guy named Richard Poe. Some of you can go find that book. It was groundbreaking because it was really the first book that talked about how can direct sellers use this thing called the internet to do their business better, right? So he had a book called The Way, and then he had The Way to Building Your Downline. At that point in time, the company that I was with was acquired by another company. And we found out at the convention, like we had a room and the leaders were there, and the leader of the company got up. He said, guys, we just got purchased by this other company. And you could just be, shocking news. People, what? No, we love our company. We love this mission. We love what we're doing. No, we're here. And by the way, the entire convention is a convention for that company. And we're going to now become part of it. So the thing that I had going back then is I created an email newsletter for my team. And I was one of the first, if not the first people to do that. And because I had this email newsletter where I could email out updates on a weekly basis to my list, I was able to email in real time what was happening with that conversion. And because I was able to do that, I minimized the amount of negativity, the amount of, theories, the amount of gossip that is happening around this. And that was featured in the Wave 3 way to building your downline. Now, around that time, I just want to paint a picture. I put up a website called MLMplayers.com. Now, okay, I know, don't kill me for that name. That's what I had because we thought, hey, we're players, we can do this. So MLM Players was where I would post a few tips. But here's what happened. I started adding photos of my travels into the end of the tips. So I would write a tip on how to sponsor and whatnot. And at the bottom, I would write, hey, by the way, we're here in Dubai. And I was just in the world's tallest building. And here's some photos. And this was before Facebook. This was before MySpace. And the moment I started adding those photos, the page ranking for MLMplayers.com on something called Alexa, different from your Alexa there. Alexa was a page ranking site that said how popular is a website. That day that I was sent out a newsletter, MLM Players was in the top 50 in the world every time. Imagine, top 50 in the world. Why? Because it was social, right? So now, of course, people go to Dubai, but this was before people even knew how to spell Dubai, right? So we were posting photos of that. We rent a yacht in Saint-Tropez and show photos of going into there. That was before all the millionaires and billionaires said, hey, we should get yachts in Saint-Tropez. So you saw this evolution happening on social. It became very social. So today, all of that is there at our fingertips. And it's no longer, that website would never be ranked in the top 5 million just because I posted a photo, right?
Right.
So the first premise is the principles stay the same. People are curious about your life, right? For example, the tactics, the way that we get it to them is going to change. So on social media, we have to decide, begin with the end in mind, right? Stephen Covey, he wrote the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Actually, I think somebody else wrote it with him because it's like, when you hear him say them, they're much more understandable than the book is actually a very difficult read, but it's a fantastic read. He says, begin with the end in mind. What would an ultimate prospecting tool look like? Well, what is your goal on social? And if I look back over the last 5 years, Randy, and we can discuss this, is that there was the golden era of Facebook. You posted something and you made a customer. You posted 2 more things and you got a distributor. I mean, it was like, whoop, whoop, whoop. It was so easy. And direct selling companies' volume went up. And it was just this amazing time, right? Like the 2 years before COVID, 3 years before COVID was the golden era. And then over time, people got a little bit of Facebook fatigue and they got, they just kind of faded. And a lot of people were buying courses and saying, hey, you know what I need to do is I need to get more followers. I need to be like a celebrity. I need to be what became known as the word influencer. So the end in mind was, I need 500,000 followers. I need 250,000 followers. And when that happens, hallelujah, I'm going to have freedom, right? And what happened? Well, this is all debatable, but anecdotally, what I've seen and people I've talked to, and as I'm watching social, and I love social, is that a lot of people spent hours and hours and hours every week creating content, creating eyeballs, trying to get more followers. And initially they might have had 1,000 followers and their engagement rate was really good, right? They'd have 200, 300 of those 1,000 engaging with them. They could sign up customers, they could get partners and so forth. But as the number of followers went up from 1,000 to 10,000, and then all that work that it takes to get to 100,000, the percentage of engagement, people commenting, liking, and engaging and DMing didn't grow exponentially with the numbers. Then they get to 250,000. I've got friends that have 500,000 followers, 1 million followers on Instagram or Facebook. And the engagement rate is 1,000 likes, 1,500 likes, 3,000 video views. That's great. I mean, you're still going to create business. But the question becomes, the hours that you put in for 5 years to create that, you ain't getting that back. And I know people that have 1 million followers and nothing is happening on their page anymore. So we have to ask ourselves, what is the end game, right? What do we ultimately want? Do we want engagement? Do we want followers? Do we want more business? Do we want privacy? For me, privacy became the new luxury. I mean, I had top 50 site in the world. I had a newsletter that was cranking, right? I had, when I was on MySpace, beginning of Facebook, millions of views. I cleaned up my Facebook, deleted most of the stuff online because I started to get recognized at airports. And when I was with my kids, putting the bags in the cars for their car rental. And I said, you know what? I don't want to be in the pitfalls of fame, right? So I decided to dial that back. I'm not saying that the trappings of fame aren't for you, but begin with the end in mind. That's where I would start the conversation, Randy, is what do you want out of social? So that we're not spending a whole lot of time on something that may not happen. The other side is the competition for content is just going to get more, right? Here's what I can promise you. Tomorrow, there's going to be more content on social media, on Instagram, than there was today. The day after tomorrow, there's going to be more than there was that day before. There are going to be more photos. There are going to be more cool videos. There are going to be more people that are looking to be influencers. There are going to be more people that naturally can sit on the toilet and do a Facebook Live like there's none of their business, right? They're happy to do that. Those people are going to thrive doing that because it's in their DNA. But if that's not in your DNA and you're forcing yourself to do that so you can go get 250,000 followers, let me tell you what, I believe the competition is so hard, you're going to get smoked. You're going to not be able to do that. Now, we'll talk about what I would suggest doing. And then you add to that artificial intelligence content, chat GPT content. Good luck. And to put the cherry on top, there are some influencers that just have huge followings. Some of them get arrested in Romania, right? Some of them huge followings. There's a guy named Dan Bilzerian that's, he's mostly about the macho alpha male lifestyle. And I was like, okay, I'm going to follow him. And there's a lot of bikini clad women and private jets and all this stuff and gambling in Las Vegas. And for a certain cohort of people, men specifically, that's a dream lifestyle. But after 2 to 3 weeks of following the Instagram to learn from what he's doing on social, even his life became boring to me, right? It's like eating caviar every day. After a while, caviar is boring. So now if we're asking our partners, our distributors, hey, you got to go on every day. How exciting are you really? Right? Like, is your life really that exciting that you need to be showcasing it every day? And the fact is, none of our lives are that exciting, right? It's just, that's a none is an absolute.
It's so funny. It's just, that's the other thing, I think we have to read the room. We'll have to do another show sometime where we just talk about social media, but it's like reading the room. I think of, because I did this better than anyone, right? I had fleets of luxury cars. Okay. I was the jerk in Romania before the jerk in Romania was born, right? I've done those videos. I had those. If you went to my website, if you went to my socials, if everything was pictures of me with exotic cars and frolicking on beaches and, $80,000 watches and bling bling and $6,000 bespoke suits and $10,000 handmade shoes from Lobs of London, flying the Concorde to London to get shoes and flying back.
I remember you doing that. Yep. I remember that your shoes had the shoe the things you put in the shoe to keep them in shape. The shoe, what do you call those?
The shoe trees are built as
the shoe trees.
foot.
Yeah. So your shoe trees were like $1,000 or $500, which were more than most people would ever spend on a pair of shoes back in those days.
Yeah, because the shoe trees were models of my feet. They actually make a cast of your foot, and then they build the shoe around it, and then So, and that's how we built in those days. I did a convention, we used to do our conventions in Bangkok, where we'd have about 10,000 people, and we would rent a hall for 20,000 people, because we would drive all the Ferraris and the Lambos into the convention hall. And we'd have a big parade when it started, and all of the top leaders would drive in their exotic cars, and we would park them there in the hall. And then we'd put, velvet ropes around them, and thousands of people would just walk around gazing at the cars, dreaming of doing that one day. Now, and you know what? I'm a watch whore. I will admit it. I love beautiful timepieces. I'm a fashion guy, so I appreciate the right watch. But if you look like what I'm wearing here, I'm wearing 3 bracelets. I think they cost $15 each or $20 each, because they're made from plastic, which is taken from the ocean and recycled. And it's called 4 Ocean, the number 4, in case you guys want to Google it and do this to support. They go out there, they take this plastic that's polluting the ocean. For each bracelet you buy, they can harvest 1 pound of plastic out of the ocean, and then they turn it into a bracelet. Well, that's where I'm at today. I'm much more, if I'm doing an event, I'm probably wearing my $15 bracelet, not an $85,000 watch, because I'm not talking about how to be a multimillionaire anymore. I'm talking about how you get debt free, how you pay off your credit cards, how you create a quality lifestyle, and because I was a really poor guy coming from a really poor family. So the fact that I could go buy a $250,000 car and pay cash for it, that was important to me. It's a stage I had to go through. And I wish everybody in the world could go through that stage that I did, where I pissed away literally millions of dollars, and I have zero regret for it. Say, oh, Randy, if you would have invested that money and put it in, you could be a billionaire. But maybe that's true, but I wouldn't change a thing. I felt like I just needed to do that, because I was the kid who wore the JCPenney jeans when the cool kids had the Edwin jeans. I was the kid who wore my brother's hand-me-down clothes and the other kids. I was the kid who didn't have a bike and the other kids had the 10-speed bikes. I was the kid who didn't have a car, and the other kids, their mommy and their daddy gave them a 69 Chevelle or Camaro or Trans Am for their birthday at 16 and paid their insurance. And, so when I got the chance to really earn money, and I did, I made the most of it. Now I've become a steward of money, right? I know how to be a good steward of my wealth and build my wealth and do it in a way that protects the environment and makes what I think the world is a better place. It's congruent with my principles. And I think the profession has really moved that way. I just think I was just doing a training this morning for some teams in Colombia and Dominican, and I was telling the story about there's a company that writes the 4 Idiots books, and they offered me in advance. They said, we want you to write MLM for idiots. And
they've been trying to get people to do that for a decade now. Because I remember they reached out to us like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years ago.
Yeah, and this was back.
They reached out. They reached out to Mark Yarnell too. Rest in peace, Mark. He was amazing.
Yeah, And I told him, I don't want to write books for idiots. I want to write books for brilliant people. And, you know, if you look at my direct selling success book, it's almost 300 pages. And any publisher will tell you, well, people don't read those kind of books anymore. They want really short books, a lot of graphics, big type. You know, you could put 8 words on a page. They like those kind of checkout, you know, supermarket books. I don't want to write those kind of books. The thing, and why I think that, like, why are there so many crappy books in our space? Because what happens is somebody says, you should write a book. And so they say, okay, I'm going to write a book. I'm going to write everything I know about network marketing. Well, that's 80 pages, because that's everything they know about network marketing, right? I've written 14 books. I'm working now on number 15. And I haven't even come close to sharing everything I know, right? I write books for, you know, I wrote the First Circle book so that this is the book you give a new person so that you can transform them from hope to belief so they stay in the business. I wrote Direct Selling Success because I said, this is my template. This is my step-by-step how to build a generic system for growing your team that will duplicate, that will give you that walkaway money. I wrote the DEFCON 1 book to say, this is a book for leaders who are facing DEFCON 1. DEFCON 1, for you guys who don't know, is English slang for defense condition. So when it's defense condition 1, that means the Russians have launched the nuclear missiles and they're heading over Alaska right now, right? So DEFCON 1 is for what happens when the FTC closes you down. What happens when your top leaders take a deal and go join an MLM crypto scam? What happens when, you know, your founder is arrested for, you know, drowning kittens on TV in front of little children? You know, what the, you know, DEFCON 1, that's a book just for that, right? That's what we have to, I don't even know what got me off on that, but, I guess just the tangent of how I view the business now and how I think we, you know, I feel like we have this privilege of the platform. Once you become a leader and you have 20,000 people or 50,000 people or 100,000 people, yeah, you can jack them all up with the private jet shit and the, you know, $80,000 watches and the bling bling and the hype and the Lambos and the bikinis and the, that's the other thing I did in that video. They you know, there's like this model of this is what a recruiting video should look like. There was 5 places in that video they sent me. So I give them a storyboard and I give them a script. Then they add what's called the B-roll, which is the video that accompanies the skip. So they had all those suits and ties. And then there was 5 places where they're showing cash. So they have a guy with like $100 bills and he's, you know, and I'm like, get that crap out of my video. That's not, you know, I don't want those candidates. The people who are, you know, that's the MLM for Idiots book. Those are not, and I promise you guys watching, those are not, the people who are impressed by that stuff, those are not the people you want in your team. I guarantee you.
So was that Jay Powell, you know, printing out the money in that video? The Fed printing
right.
money? No, and that's absolutely true. It's, you know, just to circle back to the social media, I don't want to give the wrong impression. If you love going live on Instagram every day and you have something cool to share or something neat to show, and you're literally the kind of person that says, I'm on the toilet and I just had a thought, I'm going live, and you're great with that, do it. Like, absolutely do it, because that's not there for you to do.
Not the toilet one. Do the other stuff. Not the
toilet one. I'm just giving
that
as an example. There are people that are comfortable. They're so comfortable doing it. Do it. That doesn't mean that 99.99% of your team is going to be that, right? So if you're comfortable doing it, do it. I've been to the YouTube conventions, and let me tell you, it's cutthroat, right? Like there's burnout, there's drugs in the sense that they got to stay on top. And the moment you falter, there's somebody there to take your spot. If you're trying to compete with them, if you're trying to compete with Ronaldo and Messi, who have a natural ability to have all that following, if they put effort into it or not, that's a different story. But if you like going live, do it. Here's the thing though, is you can have success with social media without having a huge following. If I were to give you one, if that's the one takeaway, I would say social media is amazing. If you like it, do it. But you don't have to be a high followed influencer type person to have great success with social media. There are people, Randy, and maybe this is a male thing, I'm not going to speak, but I have friends that are males that we have conversations for 6 to 9 months in only memes. Like literally, we're just sending memes back and forth, but we're still having a conversation. We haven't picked up the phone and talked to each other. So there's this, we could do a whole section just on memes, but social media is very powerful. It's very effective. If you do it as a team together and like quick training on this. When I connect with somebody, the first thing I do after we have a conversation, know, like, and trust, is I get their phone number, right? And I think most of you probably do that because the phone number is what connects us to them on the social platforms for the most part. That's how you can find out if they're on Signal, if they're on Twitter, if they're on Kakao Talk, if you're in Korea, right? There's all these different apps. Then what I say is start following the people who are your prospects and then give them high fives and hugs. So a high five is a like, right? Is a like or a heart on a Facebook post or an Instagram post or a TikTok, whatever that may be. Do people like getting likes or not? Yeah, they love getting likes, right? So if you tend to give them likes, you're more likely to have them like you. Really simple psychological stuff. In Facebook, you can create a list. Here are the prospects in Houston. Here are my prospects in Miami. And then you can click that list in the morning, and that feed only fills up with the people who you've met in Miami that are your prospects. And you can thoughtfully engage with them. Now, you might say, well, Art, what's the strategy? What's the strategy? What's the strategy? The strategy is be a friend, right? And for those of you that are female watching this, and men, just pay attention. If I were to ask the females in the room, do you want your husband or your boyfriend to be strategic with you or thoughtful with you? Right? Men, I can tell you the answer is thoughtful. That's the same on social media. Be a friend, learn where the buttons are, find a 16-year-old to tell you where the buttons are, high five people by giving them likes and hearts. If you want, spend that extra 5 seconds to put a comment, which is a hug. People love comments more than high fives. And over time, they're going to like you more, and they're going to come to your feed. And your feed on Instagram, for example, is your business card. This is your modern day business card. It's not handing somebody a business card. They're going to come to your Instagram page, and they're going to look at that and go, what's this person about? Well, they have a family or they don't. They have kids or they don't. They're in a business or they aren't. They like to travel or they don't. They like food or they don't, right? This is the curated business card for you. It doesn't have to be amazing. It just has to be good enough when the person comes and spies on you, checks you out. They're like, yeah, I'd probably do business with them or buy a product from them, right? That's it. Your story is your hustle. That's where you're showing you doing the business. Oh, I just sold this person a product. Oh, I just went to this conference. Oh, my friends and I, we're going to go get pedicures now because we all are using our Break the Zero check, so we can go do that once a week or get a massage. And that's where they see that. That's very quick. You don't have to curate that perfectly. So you're just inviting people into your adventure by being thoughtful in their feeds. And if you do that as a group of 5 or 6 people to warm up the algorithm, so let's say you put up a post and your 5 or 6 partners on your team say, hey, we're all going to comment on that so that your post shows up in your friend's feed for that day, then you're going to start to get DMs, direct messages. Like, this is a very basic training. And if TikTok gets banned in 60 days, 90 days, guess what? You can take these basic principles and apply them to whatever other platform there is. So I'm not saying social media isn't effective. It's very effective. But the goal is to build your network, make it more friends, people that know you, to connect with them. The ones that see you using the product, they'll say, hey, what's that about? Make them customers. And the ones that see you talking about a Break the Zero type of check or something, then they're interested. They'll let you know and talk to those. Take the easy ones first, right? So I just wanted to clear that up, Randy. I don't want people to go, oh, Art says social media is not for direct sellers. Not at all. I'm not saying that at all. What I am saying is maybe beginning with the end in mind of being in competition with all those YouTubers and new kids on the block of the current era and the Ronaldos and the politicians with the eyeballs. That's just going to become more and more and more competitive. There are going to be amazing influencers out there that create amazing content. And if we think you're going to be able to do that part-time, and then what you're doing, Randy, is you're taking the hours that you should be spending prospecting and creating customers and building your team, and you're putting that into trying to become a social media personality, and it's not in your nature, probably it's going to be a lot of wasted hours in the long term. That's my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, let me jump in with a couple of points on social media. Then I want to talk about your mastermind event. But a couple of thoughts for you guys on social. You're not going to out Mr. Beast. I mean, what's his budget for a video now? Is it $10 million? Is it $50 million? I mean,
and if you don't know who Mr. Beast is, you're already behind the 8 ball, right?
Yeah, right. So yeah, you're not going to compete with those people, but you don't have to. So don't try to do that. And the other 2 thoughts I would add to that are, if you're watching us on YouTube, subscribe to this channel, Duplication Nation. If you're watching on the Facebook, like or follow that Facebook page, because I do have a training coming up where we're going to talk about how to best duplicate with social media, where when the company can create, because if you just create like a template post and you have everybody in your team do it, Facebook or Insta or whoever just says, oh, there's 10,000 people putting this same thing. This is just spam. We're not going to show it. There's ways to do it where you create one thing and people can share it in campaigns. And we're going to do a training on that. So just follow the page. The other thing is always, every time you post on any social account, ask yourself, okay, if this amazing new candidate I just met at the ABBA Stadium concert saw this post, would they want to be on my team? Because if that post says, and Donald Trump, and Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden, if you're going to use your social media to vent your frustrations about the state of the political universe, just know that's the odds. Every time, whatever you're posting on anything, just ask yourself the question, if this really amazing person who I would love to have on my team happened to land on my account 1 minute from now, and this is the top post, would they want to join my team, or might I be repelling people? So that's my 2 cents I'm going to add on to what Art said.
And that both of those, those points are very valid. It doesn't mean you shouldn't authentically be you, though, right? So there's ways of still authentically standing for something, but figure out, are you doing it in a way that's attractive or repelling, right? And I know, people in direct selling that have a strong point of view, they hold certain values very dearly, but they are very smart about how they portray them, right? And they do it in a way that isn't offensive, right? That isn't going to repel half their team, where people can respect it for the decision that they've made to whatever that may look like. Exactly. On the Lambos and the yachts, here's the thing. I think beautiful cars are amazing. I think beautiful homes are incredible. I think some dinners, I think food is art. Like, I'm a foodie, so some meals are just spectacular. What I see doing, working well is there's a group of individuals that may be working at Google or someplace or Buc-ee's, and they're building their break to zero check with their direct selling business. And then those 4, 5, 6, 10, 12 individuals say, hey, every quarter, every 90 days, we're going to rent a beautiful Airbnb mansion. And for those 5 days, we're all going to go there and have the amazing lifestyle for 5 days. But they don't say the mansion's theirs. They say, here's what we're doing. We're renting this every 90 days so we can have a vacation in this place and in that place. And we're renting together this mansion, and we're renting these cars because everything's rentable these days, right? You can rent a private jet. The rental aspect of the lifestyle is exciting, right? That you're not saying I own it, because owning it, that's expensive. That's maybe not even what you want, right? Like, do you really want, or do you want to stay in a different mansion every 90 days somewhere in a different part of the world? And that part's really cool. Like, to me, watching that develop, watching that cohort of people do that, I think is super exciting, which is very different from what I would say there's these sausage fest events where it's mostly men that are alpha, that are worshiping the 5 or 10 people on the stage who have taken their $5,000, and it's high pressure sales, and it's all posturing, and they're all like, oh, I just want that life. But you know what they're selling isn't what you're going to get. It's not on the menu for you, for most of you, unless you want to become that kind of person. And direct selling isn't a sausage fest, right? I don't know if that's even an appropriate term, but I'm just like, it's not, when you look at the broad spectrum of direct selling distributors, it's family, it's young, it's women, it's men, it's a meritocracy of inclusion, versus what is being advertised on social media as success seminars and success whatever. And there's this group that's portraying the private jet and the mansion and all these things as the end outcome. And that may not be what you want. If it is what you want, go do what they do. Perfect, great, right? Not here to tell you what you should or shouldn't do. But if it's not, it's okay. That's where direct selling also allows you to fit into what it is that you're looking for. Are there people that have planes and beautiful homes and yachts and direct selling from a direct selling business? Yes, there are. That's also on the menu. That's the beauty of it, right? That's the beauty of it. On the corporate side, Randy, you mentioned, social media assets. When the company comes out with social media videos and so forth, if you're not sharing that with your partners, you're missing out on the magnifying effect, right? You have some place where your distributors can go and download that asset and start sharing it inside their Instagram stories, right? Like do that now, where they can put it on their boards. There's an app called Boards, which makes it easy to share assets or contents or scripts within apps and messaging apps. Make it easy to do that. At the Mastermind event, we've got Sarah Robbins. She's doing a session on social media strategy for 2023, what's working and what's not working. So again, you can go find people that really love what they're doing. Sarah's one of them. So you can certainly check that out. But so much we can talk about, right? Like we could do this for 20 hours.
Now you mentioned Sarah and the event, because I told you I want to talk about that, because we're recording this. You heard January 30th. In 4 days, your event is taking place, 4 or 5 days from today. And for those of you guys who don't know, there was a magazine called Upline, started by John Milton Fogg. And that was kind of really the glue that held together a lot of the profession. And he started doing events. And the first one he called the Upline Masters event. And it was me, Mark Yarnell, I think Sandy Ellsberg, maybe Richard Brook, maybe.
Russ Devan, I think, was there. Remember Russ?
Russ Devan was probably one of the first ones.
Peggy Long.
I think 6 of us. And it was a huge success. They made albums of it. So then they did another one. They did it. So they were doing them as a series, like a regular thing. And John eventually sold the magazine. Other people came in. It kind of went away. They stopped doing the events. One day, Art Jonak woke up and said, I'm going to start doing those events again. Why did you do that? What drove you to do that?
If you go back to the days where I was on that bulletin board, alt.business-multi-level, inside of that bulletin board, at one point in time, somebody posted, hey, I got this journal called Upline, and it's all about MLM. And the rest of us were like, what are you talking about? There's a magazine just for our profession? He's like, yeah, it's called Upline. And so I said, well, how do I get it? And they posted the address of Upline Publishing, which was, I think it was 403 Water Street, Charlottesville, Virginia. And I lived in Charlottesville, Randy. I was at the University of Virginia. So at the end of my graveyard shift, I walked over to Water Street. I knocked on the door. The door opened. They didn't have it locked. I was like, hello, anybody in here? At the top of these wooden stairs, there was a voice that came by going, what? I was like, and the first thing that came to my mind was a job. I said, I want a job. And this guy with glasses was up there, curly hair. He says, you want a job, right? He's just being all loud. And he said, come on up here. And that guy, his name was John Milton Fogg. He wrote a book called The Greatest Networker, which to this day, I believe he was channeled to write, one of the great books about our profession. And I talked my way into him hiring me into the shipping department to package stuff, right? So I was at the top of the world. I got to read the magazine for free because I didn't have $69 for a subscription. I got to read every book as I was waiting between orders. Got to get to know Randy Gage, Big Al, right? You had a tape set there. I'd never heard of who Randy Gage was. It was until I was packaging your stuff for the albums that they were selling. And over time, I worked my way up into being the head of customer support and running events. And that's how I got to know about the Masters events. And we actually helped run those events for Upline. And when that disappeared, there wasn't a safe space for networkers who, by all means, were in competition with each other. So we tended to talk badly about each other, right? It's like Mark Yarnell was one of the faculty at the Upline Masters and at the Mastermind event. And he would say, we're the only profession, and I can't say that that's probably true only, but he said we're one of those professions where, you know, if we circle our wagons and we're under attack, we shoot inward instead of shooting outward at the enemy attacking us. And I said, what if that could change? What if we got an event together that had many different companies with the top producers in those companies sharing from the platform? Maybe over time, those top producers started to create friendships that were not antagonistic to each other. And the audience could witness those friendships happening and say, hey, maybe when I'm pumping gas and I see a lady pull up and it has a Mary Kay sticker on it and I'm not in Mary Kay, instead of saying, oh, Mary Kay sucks, this and this and this, you can say, hey, you decided to start a business with Mary Kay. And I'm proud of you. I'm glad that you're doing that. That's also what I'm doing, right? And it's a supportive environment. And I think we accomplished that over 20 years, right? So for 20 years, we've been doing these events. So we have one coming up. It's a virtual one, January 4th and 5th. The lineup is spectacular.
February 4th.
Oh, sorry, February 4th and 5th, February 4th and 5th.
So for you guys, just in case you're catching this late or whatever, so it's February 4th, 5th, 2023. And then there will be, there'll be replays available afterwards. So it's got a window of time for this upcoming one.
Yep, for the people who get the tickets now. And if you made it 2 hours into this conversation, then you're exactly who this event is for, right? Like you're the hungry and the hungry ones. And let me tell you, there's two segments that I'm going to be doing. One is the simple value of your business formula. And I share that. And let me tell you what, in this time, sharing what the value of your business is with your prospects and your team, it just changes everything. I've been using this. I do probably 10, 15 Zooms a week with live prospects. And it's just immediately, really? What? Pretty amazing. Wes Linden talks about the 9 simple steps to get promoted. And Wes is a master of this. Like that's masterclass alone is worth it. Then we have a new faculty member, first-time faculty member. Her name is Cecilia Stoll. And Randy, Cecilia has 15. She has 15. I think it's 15 frontline legs at the top position in that organization. Like that's beyond legendary GOAT status, right? Greatest of all time when I say GOAT, not like the animal. And she is very much focused in on her team in her company and doesn't do outside speaking at all, period. It's a distraction. She's agreed to come here and share the 3 keys to success that transform her leadership, her leaders. I could spend 2 hours talking about Cecilia and it would blow your mind. Her story, how she keeps her team together, how she goes through when corporate does smart things or bad things, is, in my opinion, one of the top 10 leaders of our profession at this point in time, who's actively building. We've got Darnell and Tracy Self, $1 million earners, just incredible people. They're going to be talking about how to build an unstoppable support system. Marco Pasanante talks about how it's easier than ever to go recruit your next recruit right now. Eric Gamio, rock star, how to take a catastrophe and turn it into an opportunity, right? We got another session by Darnell Self. We got a session from Hilda Sala. Chris Brady, he's delivering 5 ideas a minute in his talk that you can use. We've got JJ Burden, we got Daniel Song, Dana Collins, always a high level thinking presentation. Hers is going to be on getting back to basics and creating a secure life plan. Like, how many people in the white collar need to hear that right now, right? So it's just going to be
Dana Collins is the antidote to the, whatever you called them, the sausage factory or whatever you.
Yes, the sausage.
That was a very diplomatic way you phrased that. But Dana is like the antidote for that.
Dana is amazing.
Yeah, because that's the other thing about Art's event is you're going to see a lot of really successful women on the platform. People like Hilda that he mentioned, others that really are operating at such a high level. And it's not the good old boy club that you see at so many other things, because women are such a huge part of our profession. You can't have events and not be including them if you want these events to be relevant.
That would be insane. I think the more appropriate way to phrase that is, are they willing to include the men? Because it's still 70% female, right? It's just that men tend to be the ones that people hear about because men seek recognition. There are women inside of our profession that are much better at community building, that are out earning, the men. It's just, I was driving with Ann, my wife, at one point in time, and I was asking, why is it that the men always crave the stage? Women in general, and this is broadly speaking, I don't want to be pigeonholing anything, is that they don't necessarily seek the stage as much. And Ann said, "Oh, that's easy, Art." She said, men, if you ask them, "Hey, would you like a statue of yourself in the front yard?" Most men be like, "Yeah, that sounds great." And if you ask women that question, they'd be like, "Why the heck would I want a statue of myself in the front yard?" Right? So in our profession, sometimes the men, it feels like they're the top earners and that they're the go-getters, but it's just not the case. They're just the louder ones, right, about it.
Well, the other thing, and this is, again, going back to the legacy companies, is you have the home party plan model. Mary Kay, Avon, Pampered Chef, they're just minding their own business inside their companies. There's, Mary Kay does an event, their convention, they bring in like 50,000 people. They go home, they bring in the next 50,000 people. They go home, they bring in the next 50, because there's no stadium in the world that's big enough to hold a convention for them. You don't see them on a lot of MLM, what I would call the legacy companies. And, say what let's be honest here. A couple of those legacy companies, they were in their day very misogynistic. So if you went to the opportunity presentation, it was only men in their blue suit, white shirt, red striped tie. And they say, "Yes, I'm out here building the business. And while we're out here showing the plan, the ladies will be in the kitchen and they will be serving cookies and telling people how to get the laundry soap." That was really a thing in our profession for a long time. And then we started to, and those are like the ones, the generic events always skewed to those people. So they're like 80% men. They just are. But if you take the whole profession, with all that, then actually there is more women than men, but you didn't see them at the generic events.
Yeah, they're not the ones that, that seek the platform as much. And again, I don't want to put a label that in generically. And that's why somebody like Mary Kay Ash is, when I say who are some of my heroes, Mary Kay Ash is a huge hero for me. Because when you read her book, when you study her, she had to break through all those barriers. Like, she started a company that said, I'm empowering women, and I'm going to have women be able to earn as much as men or more. You know how many people try to stop her? It was, like if Twitter was alive back then, the amount of hate she would have gotten on Twitter just for saying that she would have been ratioed from here to the moon. And in spite of that, she said, yeah, we're going to do it. And we're going to give them pink Cadillacs, and we're going to celebrate them like crazy. We're going to be amazing at edification and recognition. I'll tell you a story. For those of you that stayed this long, this was worth it right here. I had 2 conversations with Mary Kay Ash in my life. Remember both of them. The first one, and this is why I had to have a second one, because the first one didn't end well, Randy. I was having a conversation with her, and I'm trying to gather knowledge out of her. And I knew that at Mary Kay events, because I would attend them and try to learn. I'm always a sponge for knowledge. But if you talk to somebody, if you pass gas, you could get recognized for that, right? Like, there's always recognition. And I asked her during our conversation at one point, I said, Miss Ash, when is recognition too much recognition? And you could feel her on the other end of the phone, sit up, back straight. And she said, Sonny, not Art anymore. Sonny, there's no such thing as too much recognition. And that was the end of our phone call. I had offended her because she knew deep down inside, for that company to succeed and to exceed at the mission that was empowering women, recognition had to be part of it, because they weren't getting it from other places, because it was a misogynistic society. And to this day, it's still something we battle. And just to be clear, yes, there's party plan companies and so forth, but there are many amazing, powerful women that are top earners in companies that aren't just party plan, right? They're across the board, and they're incredible. And Mary Kay was a big part of that, right? She helped break through those barriers. I wish more people could listen to what she had to share. That was an era before everything was easily shareable on TED Talks and YouTube, right? But amazing woman.
There's a book by A.L. Williams that I had to pay $280 on Amazon to buy it, for a 25-year-old torn cover, pages marked up. So see, Art doesn't have the dust jacket either. The dust jacket was, so I'd pay like $280 for it. Art was the A.L. Williams was the founder of a direct selling company here in insurance. That's actually what became prepaid legal, right?
No.
It became, what is the name of them now?
A.L. Williams. Yep. There's still Primerica.
Primerica. Yeah, became Primerica. So in the book there that Art just held up, he says, I believe in trophies the height of men and plaques the size of doors.
Yes.
So that kind of tells you, and they're a multi-billion-dollar company. So that kind of tells you if he thought that there was too much recognition.
Yes. So this is the book, but for those of you that they cannot see it, it's called Pushing Up People. And even before Randy was going to say what the title of the book was, because Art Williams has written many books, I just intuitively was like, I think I know what he's going to say. Because I buy these still to this day. This one here, I think, was $95. Whenever I find a nice hardcover version, I buy it. This one here says, Dear Barry, right? And it's got a signature from not A.L. Williams, but from one of the top leaders in A.L. Williams' organization that was giving this book to one of his people, right? And it just happened to be on Amazon. So it's just beautiful to see that the culture of recognition, of gifting, wasn't just A.L. Williams, but it was happening in depth in his organization, right? This guy's like Barry, he wrote a nice thing here for him, and then he wrote down here, comma, RVP, Regional Vice President, right? And it's these little touches that are huge. We actually have John Addison as a presenter at the Mastermind this year. John Addison is the one that helped take Primerica public right during the dot-com crash. Like, you talk about leadership, right? Like, that was absolutely incredible. He took the baton from A.L. Williams and he built that company even bigger. And so he's sharing a session called Break Free in 2023. So that's going to be a fun session as well.
All right. So I'm going to let you guys know what I'm doing. I'm doing the opening keynote about building your dreams bigger than your fears. That's going to kind of set the stage just to what you're going to get in those couple of days to inspire you. And then I'm actually doing a real work along seminar with Jaime Loquier. And it's about making the jump from seller to entrepreneur. Because here's the thing, people don't understand. Like, we're talking about women in the profession, right? If people had any idea how much money Sarah Robbins earns in a month, they would swallow their teeth.
Or Cecilia Stoll, or a lot of women, yeah.
Right? And she's one of the presenters, right? So if people had any idea but what I don't think they understand is, when you build a team of the level of those of us who are on the faculty, you're running a multi-million-dollar international company that's the equivalent of companies that pay CEOs $20 million a year, $50 million a year. Pay them $30 million a year and give them stock options that they could later turn into hundreds of millions of dollars. And they have 50,000 employees, 200,000 employees. Some of those CEOs have 2 million employees. The people in our profession are running equivalent type businesses from their home. This is
on their phone.
From their phone. This is, I have a penthouse here. I live on a little island between Miami and Miami Beach. I bought a 3-bedroom condo, and this bedroom here is my office, that I run a multi-million-dollar corporation with 0 employees and operate all over the world. This is the session Jaime and I are going to do, is how do you make the jump from having 150 customers in utility warehouse who get your internet and gas and things service, everything, or your 80 customers in Zinzino that buy your balance oil, or your 25 customers in Natura who are using your cosmetics, or your 15 customers in that, or your 200 customers in this? How do you go from that to running a business? Because that's what I wrote the DEF CON book about, is for people at that level. Like, it's not about let me tell you a secret. When you have 100,000 people in your team, your problem on Wednesday is not, how do I find a new candidate to put in front of a presentation? Or what do I do about the lady who ordered the strawberry protein shake and she got the chocolate one by mistake? No, the problem you get is the guy who has 50,000 people on his team who doesn't want to speak to you because you gave the guy who has 60,000 people on his team 20 minutes on the platform, and you only gave that guy 15. You're getting the call because your top Starfleet commander rank person on your 3rd level is having an affair with the wife of somebody 2 levels down from him. You're getting the call because the 5 guys who are your top leaders in Netherlands just took a deal to go join an MLM crypto scam. or they just got a runway deal for some startup thing, and they gave them a cooked leg and put them in the top of that's what you're running that business, which is producing millions of dollars in volume, and you're the CEO of that business. So you have to learn, how do I use technology? How do I use my phone to know, okay, the clock app, okay, what hour is it for my team in Moscow? What hour is it for my team in London? What hour is it in my team in Hawaii? Where's my backlog? Okay, where do I need to go next month? If I look, I got 100,000 people on my team. I need to go do some long distance trips. I need to be supporting. I got to go down and sponsor people and build from the bottom up. Where do I go? How do I become a road warrior? How do I learn how to pack a suitcase so I can go out for 11 days and only carry on luggage? Because I'm never going to check a bag again, because I can't afford to ever lose that. I can't wait 30 minutes for them to bring my bag. How do I work that team when I get there? So I have a dinner with the leaders where I set up a session where they're bringing high-level people to me one-on-one. What's the opportunity presentation I'm going to do there? What's the training I'm going to do for the team there? How do I get the highest return on investment for that 18 hours that I'm going to spend in Sofia, Bulgaria, and then go the next day to Prague. And then a day and a half later, I'm going to be going to wherever, right? How do you run? So that's what Jaime and I are going to talk about. So that's the kind, so all these kind of sessions, all those ones you just heard, John Addison, Hilda, all those people, that's what you would pay $200,000 to hire those people for a day and a half. Or maybe it's 400,000. I don't know. Maybe it's more. So
if they would come and train you.
Yeah. So instead of paying $400,000, how much is the ticket for that again?
It's I don't know. It's cheap though. I know that. And then
you don't know. You're killing me. I don't know either.
If you could hire them, you can't. Like, you can't hire Cecilia Stoll. You can't hire Hilda Sala, right? Like, they're not for hire. You have to go cultivate the friendships. And we've done that. We've cultivated the friendships to where they trust this platform to say, okay, I'm going to be willing to associate my name with this event because it's a long-term event. And I tell you what, the closing session is by Orion Sala. He's from Oslo, Norway, who's built an amazing business, both as an operator, and he gets paid by being in the field. Even though he helped start his company, he doesn't get a check from the company. His check is from being a distributor in the field. But when you see the location of where he filmed that closing talk, man, talk about dream building. You're going to absolutely love it. And I've got a session in there, Randy. I call it, see if you as a copywriter, because you're the master copywriter, I'm the amateur, but I'm calling it Be the Break the Zero Hero. And it's how to effectively share the opportunity in the modern era, right? And so it's going to summarize that, how I'm doing it and how well it's resonating. And I think that many of you could be able to borrow all of it or pieces of it to make your presentations even better.
All right. So I went to the website. Now it's virtual this year. This one, it's normally,
and we have a big announcement coming at this event. And I'm not going to say anything else, but it's around that.
Yeah. So normal for the virtual ticket is $97.
Wow,
it's
cheap.
Now on sale for $97. But I will tell you, I'm one of the faculty.
You just said it's normally $97 and now it's on sale for $97. What?
No, it's normally $197.
Oh, $197. Okay.
Yeah, and now it's on sale for $97. But because I'm one of the faculty, Wes sent me messaging the other day. I can share a coupon code, and understand I don't get any commissions from this. There's no affiliate program.
We're not a direct selling company. We don't pay him every month for the customers he brings to the mastermind. To be clear,
we're just, I recommend
we're cheap
this
like Netflix.
Yeah, I recommend this event because I know it helps you build your team. So if you use the promo code Randy20, RANDY 20. So Randy and then the number 20, you can save 20% more. Anyone in your team, if they go. So the website is mastermindevent.com, promo code Randy20. And then I don't know if even I don't know if there's a different ticket price after the event for the replay or whatever, but I'm sure the discount code will keep working even for the replay. So if you happen to be watching this on February 10th or February 12th or whatever the case may be, just put in that promo code. But really get to that event, because you can say, and they put together a team that really does it right. It isn't this really boring one talking head. There's breakout rooms and a lot of interaction and different and breaks during the day and sessions, and you can always watch stuff later. So it's a really engaging, interactive platform that they put it on, and it'll really make a difference for your business. And when you get in there and you start to network and mastermind, again, it's all generic. There's no selling, nobody's pitching their companies. It's safe to send your team there, but you will make friendships and develop relationships, just like we do on the faculty. Art told you he wanted to get those, and that's what happens, right? We have these faculty dinners. They've been in my home, I've been in their home. There's no way I'm ever going to steal a distributor from Dana Collins or, Eugene Hong or Sarah Robbins or whatever. They're never going to steal one from me. We're friends. We're colleagues. We have a relationship. We respect the profession. You'll develop that kind of relationship with the other attendees there too. And sometimes the master, the brainstorming and the just meeting at the breaks, there's breakthroughs in that, because this is the best people in the world who attend this event. This is the smartest brains in our profession are at this event. So it's mastermindevent.com. Make the most of it between now and the event, and even the replay. Share it with your teams on how they can get their virtual pass. And you've got like what do you call that platform of content that they get access to?
So we have, like, similar to DoorDash, there's a 3-sided marketplace. We have a 3-sided business in Mastermind. Number one, we have the event itself. That's mastermindevent.com. And the Mastermind event has been virtual during COVID, but before that it has been live. Right? Maybe there might be another live one coming up, and maybe you can get a really good discount on that live ticket if you attend the virtual live. So that event is where there's a fee, because there's a cost in putting on events, right? Just like if somebody sells a book, they should charge for the book, because there's a cost in writing the book and putting together the book. Then there's 2 parts that are no cost. One is called the Mastermind Academy. And we built this platform from scratch so that we're not beholden to YouTube. We're not beholden to anybody that could maybe cancel that site or whatnot. And the Academy, all you need to do is you create a username, password, and then you're in. And everything in the Academy is free forever. As a matter of fact, the bumpers on the videos say free forever, right? When we say forever, we mean forever. Why do we do that? We do that because we take some of the proceeds from the event, if whatever there's profit, there's not always profit, and we put it into building this kind of a platform, because not everybody can attend a live event. And there may be somebody in Mississippi or in Saigon that's the next Steve Jobs of our profession. And I'm a believer that the gatekeepers of knowledge history is going to look at them a little weird, right? Because the knowledge is becoming more and more cheap and affordable to put out there for free. That's why podcasting is taking off. And look at what Randy's doing here with this conversation here and the conversations that he's having. There's no cost to this because the cost of one-to-many is becoming less and less. And so why should we keep knowledge away from people that need it, right? It's that they can't afford a $200 ticket. So we're not putting all the content from the live and the virtual in there, but we're taking some pieces of it after a year or so, putting in there, and that's a growing library. And the third part of it is the Mastermind or the Direct Selling Hall of Fame, right? The Mary Kay Ashes of the world need to be recognized in eternity of our profession. And so the Direct Selling Hall of Fame is this third part, which is also, there's no fee for that. And there we recognize over time, it'll grow to hundreds of amazing people that are doing amazing things today and that in our past have paved the way for us, right? Did their best with the knowledge they had at the time to create a model that worked and over time iterated it. And the Hall of Fame inductees, these are the ones that nominate and then vote for the future Hall of Fame members. So that's the three-sided approach. So your ticket helps support all three sides, right, to continue. So we appreciate you coming in, and I know that we're going to deliver far more than $97 of value. You can take that to the bank.
All right. I'd love to go another 7 hours, but I really have to pee. So any final thoughts you want to share with people on just the profession, where you think it's going, or advice you give them, or just any, whatever comes to mind? Yeah,
we have community. It's one of our biggest selling points of direct selling. Like, you feel it when you walk into the room. We try to create that community at Mastermind event. I think we're successful at it when people come to the live events. The community is there. I think we bring to the market, for the most part, really high quality products with a lot of innovation behind them that customers love. And we bring to the table what you call leveraged income, what I would call a break to zero income. And here's the thing. You can't microwave a break to zero income, right? It's going to take time to develop. So let's stop with the get rich quick thing because I've seen people try to get rich quick for 20 years and not get there, right? Let's take the principles that we're learning, that others are teaching with us, the best practices, and agree that over time we're going to build this. Nobody's going to hand you a residual income on Instagram, even though they might be advertising it. Hey, come here for $5,000 a month in our coaching program. We'll give you a residual income. No, that's not how it works. You still have to do the deal. So my parting words to you is take action and do the deal. Now, very few people want to hear that, right? Do the deal is let's go get a customer. Let's go get a partner. Let's teach them how to do the same. Let's duplicate that within an organization. And be that organization that tells a story more than any other organization, right? Because it's going to land on the right ear. Somebody out there desperately wants to be part of a community because they're lonelier than ever, even though they're more connected than ever. They desperately want to have a shot at changing zip codes for their kid so they can be in a better school. They're desperate for a mentor or a group of mentors that can help them along the way, and to be able to create an income that 99% of people don't have, which is continues on as long as the customers in the organization continue to order. It's a dream. It just has to land on the right ears. So it's you telling the story. How many times is the story told by you every day? And then how many times is the story told by you, by somebody on your team, or by a tool on your behalf every day, right? And if that number starts to grow, the number of times the story is being told, I'm telling you, all the other stuff's going to fall into place, right? But you got to do the deal. The deal is you today. Go tell the story, right? Go tell the story of your company, of your products to somebody new today. That doesn't include a follow-up call with your team or your partner. I'm talking about person that's not in the business and go tell them about the business. Now more than ever, right? This economy that we're in 2023 could be a golden opportunity. And the last thing I would want for you is to look back in 2026 or 2027 and go, oh my gosh, I missed the window. Did you see how much direct selling grew in those 2-3 years because the timing was so good to pick up people that may never have looked at direct selling but now they were open to doing it. And I decided to lean back and take a break and see how things would develop. I decided to lean back and go, well, the tools aren't perfect. No, all I can say right now is lean in, do the deal.
All right. DuplicationNation.com has all my trainings, blogs, everything. Mastermindevent.com is where you can get your tickets for the event.
And that's where you'll find the Academy. Just click on the Academy button and it'll take you to the free Academy as well.
All right. Yeah. And then wherever you're watching this, again, YouTube or Facebook, follow or like the page so you get the future content. And I really do believe that this is this era we're entering, that you really will look back at this at 2027 or 2028 and say, wow, that was when the profession just went crazy, because the world desperately needs what you have to offer right now. Millions of jobs are going to be eliminated this year. Those people are going to get laid off. Entire industries are going to disappear in the next few years. There's never been a time when people needed you more in what you have to offer than right now. So please make the most of it. Art, thanks for being with me.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Sometime soon. And again, this will be a series. I'm going to be just chopping it up with, you see, this is not 3-minute videos. I'm looking for brilliant people that we can just chop it up for hours if need be on topics that will help you grow your business, grow yourself. So Art, thanks for being the guinea pig, the inaugural guest.
Nobody can ever take that from me. I can always say I was the first, right? and just like if you're shooting for diamond and there's no diamond in your town, when you become the first in your town, forever they can introduce you from the stage saying, Randy is the first diamond in Cincinnati, Ohio. He was the first diamond. That's going to be part of your introduction forever. Go be the first, right? So I get to say I was the first on the chopping it up. And for those of you that made it here to the end, congratulations. Apologize to you because we went long, and maybe, hopefully you found content. No, I'm proud of you that you made it to the end because you're hungry. You're hungry for that knowledge. So Randy, thank you for your friendship. I love you. And thanks to everybody that's here with us on this journey.
Thanks, everyone. Peace.